All right, wonderful. Anthony, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining. We're gonna jump in a second. Carrie from the THCB was just joining, just on video. Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much. This session, it talks a little bit about talking about the one session and OER. That might be on me. Might have mistitled that. It's really about sort of the specific resources, OpenStax, because if you happen to be on the last session, you know that Sarah and George did an outstanding overview of OER in general. We will touch on that again, but this will be a little bit more focused on the processes, the resources, and how to get to them specifically. And we do have a slide deck just to answer some basic questions that we always want to share. And we'll probably put this in the chat again because more people will join. But the session will be recorded, and we are committed to providing a safe and accessible environment for all. Part of the way we do that is that we have live captioning. And if you want to access the captions, you can do so by clicking the Show Captions button. Should be on the bottom of your Zoom environment. I might chime in on that again in a little bit. For now, I am going to share the slides. Carrie, if you'd like to say any introductory remarks while I get those going.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Carrie Gits. I'm a director of digital learning at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. And as Anthony gets the slide deck ready, we're excited. If you all were at the opening session and the morning brew session, it's great to have you all here. And so we are here for the next 45 minutes to really provide you with a little bit of an overview of the OER Nursing Essentials project. And Anthony and I will spend some time introducing ourselves as well as the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and OpenStax for those of you that aren't familiar with who we are. So today, kind of what we plan to do is give you an overview of, like I said, introductions of who we are, but also really provide that I'll say a bird's eye view of the ONE project and highlights of the various phases, how it started, how we got here, and then we'll jump into accessing the resources. We'll jump out to sort of a live demo of where these resources live, and we'll show you how to access them and the benefits of adopting and adapting them, and provide you with additional options such as the hub and the statewide repository for accessing them in the future. So I think we can probably move on to introductions, who we are. And I'll kick it off with an introduction. Like I said, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, the Coordinating Board is the state agency that was created by the state legislature to represent the highest authority in matters of public education in the state. And its mission is to serve as a resource, a partner, and an advocate for institutions and ultimately for students in higher education, and to result in a globally competitive workforce in Texas. You can go to the next slide, Anthony. A little bit about our structure. The board is appointed by the governor. The board is made up of 9 members and 1 student member. And the board is responsible for hiring the Commissioner of Higher Education. Dr. Harrison Keller is our current Commissioner of Higher Education in Texas. And agency staff, like myself and my colleagues in the Division of Digital Learning, are those individuals responsible for overseeing programs and policies that the agency puts into effect. We have some major core functions at the coordinating board, and this includes things like the approval of new programs and schools. We also are responsible for administering state resources like our financial aid program to students in Texas. We oversee statewide data in collaboration with the Texas Education Agency, which is the K-12 state agency, a Texas Workforce Commission, which allows us to have a broad view of students essentially from K through 20, and as they move into the workforce. In the agency, we also have centers of work, including student success, college and career advising, workforce education, and digital learning. And lastly, we also work on policy, including the strategic plan for higher education in the state, which is called Building a Talent Strong Texas. And we work with the legislature to think about policy for higher education and provide advice and counsel to our various stakeholders across the state. And I reside in the Division of Digital Learning at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and we are a relatively new division established in 2020 with our mission to provide leadership and advocacy for digital learning in higher education and to promote, sustain, and advance a quality digital learner experience. We are led by our founding Assistant Commissioner, who you heard at the keynote opening this morning, Assistant Commissioner Dr. Michelle Singh. Our team is made up of Dr. Kyla Torre, and our directors include myself, Dr. Aleda Cantu-Lee, Dr. Gwen Morell, our program directors, Dr. Marian Maddox, Dr. Elizabeth Tolman. Our administrative assistant is Amy Zandy, and we have a portfolio manager who helps keep us organized on all projects, Gaith Hijazin. And the goals for our division include advocating for, building capacity for, and recognizing digital excellence in Texas. And it is through collaboration and partnership with stakeholders across the state where we manage a large portfolio of projects that support not only digital learning, but also OER. And you can go to the next slide, Anthony. And this includes our OER grant program, our research in open education, our professional learning academies, as well as the development of resources and bringing the community together. We also maintain and manage the OER statewide repository, which is OER in Texas. And the collaboration with OpenStax on the ONE Project is one example of the project or our collaboration in developing open educational resources. So I'll turn it over to Anthony so he can tell you a little bit more about OpenStax.
Thanks so much, Carrie. OpenStax, we're just glad to be here, of course. And I should say, you will see if I do better with driving my own slides. So thanks. OpenStax is a part of Rice University. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. We, with the support of a great number of philanthropic partners, including state agencies such as the THECB, private philanthropy, individuals, and institutions. Our mission is to improve educational access and learning for everyone. Through a great deal of support from all of those people and many of our adopters, we've become the world's leading publisher of free OER. How do we do this and what do we actually do? So what we're providing mostly are expertly written, peer-reviewed, course-aligned materials. And we'll go through that process a little bit later in this presentation about how we get to that. But we provide these resources in online, downloadable, and print formats. We have, those formats are available for flexibility, for different levels of access. The online version is the most accessible and most updated and current, but not everybody has internet all the time. So maybe you need a downloadable version. As you mentioned earlier this morning, some students and faculty prefer print. And all of these versions intersect and intertwine, and we provide them all. And the nursing series, just to be clear, will be available in all these formats and some others too. We have other versions for other uses, XML and EPUBs and so on. We publish these resources under open licenses, and this applies, of course, to the nursing series as well. Most of our textbooks are under the Creative Commons Attribution License, which gives a great degree of flexibility for adaptation, reuse, and reposting. And that reposting piece is an important one, okay? Because, like I said earlier this morning, if you were on, very few people actually go in and edit line by line the textbook, but many people, or another resource like that, but many folks might need to post it in a new location, break it up and put it in their LMS, align it to a competency base or an accelerated program or something like that. So even if you never get into actually doing any editing, the ability to post, repost, reshare in the formats, capacities, lengths, curating and chunking and things like that are really important. So most of our books are under that CC BY, that Creative Commons Attribution License. We have a couple that are exceptions that are under non-commercial license and so on for various reasons. But the nursing series will be CC BY. And we support them with ancillaries, core ancillaries, we're not providing our own version of, some of the things that Sarah was talking about. We don't have ATI built into OpenStax at this moment, but we have a great deal of the kind of baseline ancillaries, it's PowerPoint slides, assessments, and so on, especially items to support nursing instruction, such as NCLEX resources and so on. Those don't always come out the exact same time as the textbook. As you may know from traditional publishers, sometimes those lag a little bit. That's going to be the case with some of these books. But the other thing is community resources. We provide community resources and tech products. Some of those are provided by OpenStax, but some of them are provided by other entities within the nursing and OER community, and tech products. Those might include for-profit products that align with our resources. And those all work together to complement each other, just to create a supportive resource. OpenStax has had a great impact. Really, this is thanks to the support of all types of folks from everyone from our funders and supporters to adopters and students. And this goes from librarians on campuses and instructional designers advocating for the use of OER in general, and OpenStax is a part of that, to individual faculty, homeschool parents, tutors, others, using our resources. And they can be used in all these different contexts because of the vision of providers and organizations like the THECB, and the individual effort and needs of faculty, students, and even parents. Okay, so how do we get here? I'll turn it back over to Carrie.
Thanks, Anthony. So yes, we are all here for the next 2 days to come together and collaborate during the ONE Summit to explore the resources and learn more about the 8 textbooks that you've all been hearing about. But how did we get here? How did we get to the ONE Summit? How did we result in the resources that have been developed? The project really began with conversations that led to collaboration, and that resulted in not only student success, but also faculty innovation. And you'll hear more about the phases of the project in this presentation before we go out to explore some of the resources. But conversations were happening across the state with not only at the coordinating board, but also at institutions and in the nursing industry about the changes in the curriculum with NCLEX and AACN Essentials curriculum. Student voices were being heard about the concern about the high cost of course materials, and the conversation about the need to come together and collaborate to create openly licensed resources. And you heard about the benefit this morning that OER affords not only students, but faculty. And stakeholders realized that in order to do this, there did have to be collaboration at scale. And so that required institutions, organization, and industry coming together to leverage the leadership and expertise of Texas nursing professionals to build and expand on these resources. And so what happened was we came together, the project evolved. And so there was the opportunity for not only the significant cost savings, but again, the benefits of OER to make these resources adaptable, customizable, and to evolve over time to not only meet the needs of students, but to effectively meet the learning outcomes and the faculty teaching needs. But you heard Michelle, Dr. Singh say earlier this morning that the potential cost savings to the students in Texas, nursing students, if we use the $100 average estimate of textbooks with 8 textbooks, more than 22,000 nursing students in Texas, it's anywhere between $17 and $20 million of cost savings that this project can afford students in Texas with the release of these 8 textbooks. So we can go on to the next slide to just a brief summary of the project before we get into the phases. The project is, again, a collaboration between the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and OpenStax, and it's under the direction of the Division of Digital Learning. And it really builds on OER-centered partnerships and collaboration that we have had with OpenStax to advance and sustain the open educational landscape in Texas and beyond. The project leveraged federal governor's emergency education relief funds, which were authorized as part of the CARISA Act. And it involved over 500 expert nursing faculty, administrators, and advisors that came together to not only contribute, but also to serve as peer reviewers, to provide input on the development of the resources, and to serve as authors. Again, these are comprehensive peer-reviewed textbooks that are aligned with the competency-based curriculum and are available at no cost to students. So as we move into the project goal, we are learning about the results of the project that involved the design and development of the 8 OER nursing textbooks that support and are aligned with the AACN New Essentials curriculum. And so I'll talk briefly about the phases of the project, and then I'll turn it back over to Anthony in a few minutes. But this project has been several years in the making. We concluded the discovery phase in May of 2022, and that turned into the planning phase, which wrapped up in in the fall of 2022, and the implementation phase, which has been a little over a year under our belts, and we're seeing the results of the implementation phase, which really was the development and creation of the textbooks, and then coming together today for the summit. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the results and sort of what we discovered in both the discovery and the planning phase, just to give you a little bit of a background of how we got to where we are and how things were developed and why they were developed in the way that they were. So the discovery phase was the first part of this project phase, and OpenStax initiated collaboration with stakeholders at Texas institutions to begin research and hear the needs of nursing instructors and concerns or questions about the changing curriculum. OpenStax and the coordinating board reached out to nursing program leaders, and actually this extensive interest and involvement ended up representing all Texas institutions that had nursing programs. So we had input from across the state, as well as input from individuals outside of Texas. And these individuals serve as nursing school deans, directors, department chairs, and they offer detailed perspectives to us on emerging requirements in nursing education, student preparation needs, the challenges of teaching during and after COVID, and also the changes in not only the new essentials curriculum, but the next gen NCLEX. And so what we discovered in the discovery phase were some of these key findings that, like many students, nursing students face challenges from navigating complex degree system programs, managing their priorities, and affording their course materials. We heard about the significant reduction in experienced faculty that were happening across nursing programs, and how administrators were already undertaking mitigation strategies. They were leaning into their strong networks and multi-institutional collaborations to build and bring success to not only their programs and their students. And then we heard from those giving input about how the essentials curriculum, while it represented challenges, these were manageable, and that it did provide manageable enhancements to nursing programs. There was also conversation about the pressing priority and concerns over how are we going to navigate the changes in the NCLEX, the next gen NCLEX. But faculty emphasized that regardless of the course materials, the strong course materials should first teach foundational ways of thinking and interpreting information. And overall, the administrators, we discovered, those providing input, really welcomed a series of collaboratively written, consistent open textbooks, and that coming together to collaborate on these resources had profound benefits for nursing education in Texas, and the opportunity to support deeper connections between programs and create more collaboration and opportunities that require greater faculty and student success, are required to ensure greater faculty and student success. And then it also provided an opportunity for us to look at existing OER in nursing that was available. That includes OpenRN in Wisconsin and some of the other resources that are out there, to see what was available, what could be reused, and also to identify that at the time, there wasn't any current OER that represented the competency-based NCLEX aligned and a direct overlap with the courses in the nursing programs. And so that all of that led us, it was a lot to digest, but that led us to the planning phase. And the planning phase is what gave us the report and the outline that provided a recommended scope and sequence to develop these materials. It identified what resources and items should be covered. The collaboration continued. You've heard us say over and over again the number of contributors and collaborators that came together to create and contribute and evaluate and give input on these resources. So that continued through the planning phase. And then it also allowed us during the planning phase to really examine those existing resources and analyze what materials should be included, adopted, and created as original resources, including the comprehensive report, the table of contents aligned with the learning outcomes, what ancillaries and art material and graphics needed to be created. And the authors were also identified for the planning phase. And that the planning phase concluded with kind of our plan and our roadmap of how we wanted to move into the implementation phase. So if we go to the next slide, the implementation phase, this is where we are today. It started in November of 2022, and it is, I wouldn't say wrapping up because it is still ongoing, but we are here today at the summit to come together to learn more about these 8 textbooks. As you will see throughout the sessions today and tomorrow, some of these textbooks you will be meeting with the authors, peer reviewers, collaborators to explore them and dive into them and figure out opportunities for mapping them to your curriculum. But again, as we've heard, these resources are openly licensed and available. They're illustrated, they are peer reviewed, and I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to talk more about them, and we're going to jump out and explore them in a few minutes. So Anthony?
Thank you. And please note, we're seeing some items in the chat around the alignment of the textbook. I'll cover that as well. And thank you so much. I want to start out by saying, I'm not going to go over every box on this slide, I promise. But all of those reports and processes that the discovery and implementation, discovery planning, and now the implementation phase. Carrie emphasized it a few times, but it just can't go without stating enough that this was entirely driven with and by nursing faculty, nursing administrating, nursing experts from different organizations from around the country. I think our core advisory board in that discovery phase was definitely more Texas focused, but many of them are actually folks that play a role on national. They have a role at the AACN. They have national front roles, and as you'll see as we share, more about the books, the authors are from all over the country, and the reviewers certainly are as well. And so this, this is the typical OpenStax process that you see on the screen here, and it actually kind of aligns in a bit to the phases that Carrie was describing. It's a little bit different, but it's really, this is here to show you that we take a very, very detailed look. Our processes are meant to echo and improve on traditional textbook development processes, in that we spend a lot of time. This preparation phase, and in the case of the discovery phase for the ONE project, took months and months to do. Many interviews, focus groups, surveys, follows up on surveys, individual conversations, meetings at departments and at conferences, and so on, where we learned about not only where things are now, the challenges folks are facing, because again, this was, people were coming out of the COVID landscape, dealing with, faculty retirements, either at the same time or upcoming cliffs, and so on. But also, it takes a while to develop some books. So we have to think a few years in the future about where things are eventually going to be. And then, of course, that editorial development process helps with that. We widen and get specific feedback on not only the overall table of contents, but every single chapter is reviewed multiple times, and there's debate and discussion around everything down, from the whole chapter and the scope and the learning objectives to an individual image and what it conveys, and something that's changing in a standard, or somebody, reviewer knows that actually this is on the agenda, the docket to change next time, or my students have trouble with this or that, but so please add this clarifying point. That level of detail from many dedicated nursing instructors within the specific courses that we're developing for medical surgical foundations, clinical skills, population health, and so on. All of those experts came in and developed and supported, and then the authors and contributors edited and revised on the way to creating the final product, which is the process right now of finalizing and producing. We take a lot of steps to ensure that these resources are usable. I mentioned earlier the different formats. So this is sort of, I won't go over this slide actually in too much detail, but it's sort of a repeat. But we provide things in different formats, and we get there by putting a lot of effort into production processes and the coding and the actual way we develop. So, our images are developed with accessibility in mind from the start, in terms of everything from the sizing of the image, the contrast of the image, the presence of alternative text, keyboard navigation, and so on in the programmatic way that we produce the materials. Now that changes in the various formats, right? A PDF isn't navigated the same way as a website. So there's always trade-offs, as there are with many resources, but we take a lot of time in the start to make sure that the resources are useful. And again, just to kind of say how this project aligned, we got a lot of different inputs in different shapes and sizes in the discovery phase. And that planning phase put it into order and put things into an organizational way where, the authors and other advisors were telling us, here's exactly how we need to come about this to address these needs. And also some prioritization. Because as we've gotten some questions either in this session or the previous one, there are certainly nursing books that we have not produced. And there's, I think, sort of 2 points on that front that we should say. It was kind of one of the last points that Carrie made, which was we looked at existing OER and we made our best effort to utilize it, but also complement it. I think what Carrie got across and what George and Sarah got across so well is that there's all these different entities that contribute to education in OER and beyond. Just like if you go to a nursing conference where there's an exhibit hall, there's a whole bunch of different entities, different publishers and different providers providing our resources. I think the main difference with OER is that these resources are in collaboration, not competition. Right? We're all working together. Some of those resources aren't actually open. They're maybe for profit. They may drive a cost. Maybe there's something we can't do in the OER space that a for-profit provider can do. That's fine. What the main goal is, though, can we provide better access and high quality materials at a lower cost or no cost in this case, so that maybe that offsets some of the usage parameters of those other platforms. And so while we don't have every book in every discipline, we took a very deep look at what OpenRN is doing in Wisconsin and talk to them and work with them to make sure that some of our resources do overlap with theirs, but they have a lot of resources that we don't. They are doing the nursing assisting. We're not, for example. Maybe we will one day. But there's ways to, there's frankly, it takes a lot of funding and effort to do this, and we want to get resources out that we can. So all that said, there's a lot of robust process that goes into this, and here why don't we share a little bit more about how you actually use them. So we're going to show you sort of two environments. Let me check on the time. Two environments real quick, and I'm gonna stop sharing and pop out to another screen. So just give me a second. But if you wanted to go find them, and I think some of you have by what we see in the chat, you go to openstax.org. Just www.openstax.org. On the top, there's a subjects menu. You could drop it down to nursing and you can choose your book. There's actually this slide that I have, the screen isn't as updated. Some of the preview materials are there, and then we'll share how to get the other preview materials shortly. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll just take you through that process. Sorry. Sorry, this is always the transition part is always a little tough. So, okay, so now I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so you should see the OpenStax page. And essentially, you'll see an announcement about the Nursing Summit that's happening right now. We'll have those banners switch out all the time. Okay, so as I mentioned, a couple other things actually from the page when you get started. So I'm going to get to the subjects in a second, but you'll see two really important things, or a few really important things right at the top. You'll see links at the top banner for things like bookstores. Yes, you can order OpenStax textbooks via the bookstore if you want to have them. We do not recommend you order an open and free textbook for your entire student body or course population. If you have 100 students taking your course, don't order 100 OpenStax textbooks. Our finance people will probably be mad at me for saying that, but don't do that. Order a subset because you only get a subset purchasing a free textbook. The print is great and it's available and it's useful. Two other important points: the help. Okay, so we provide help. You can search a help center. A lot of the customer service team is actually on this right now with us. You can chat, phone, email, info@openstax.org, and people will respond and help answer any questions, help any problems you're having, and so on. And then something else two other pieces I should mention: the login. So we got a question about test banks before. There are some instructor-specific resources, and so creating an account and logging in as an instructor allows you the opportunity to get to those. We do verify that you're an instructor at an institution, and I'll mention that if you are not easily located at an institution, if you're not on the website, or you don't have an institutional email address or something like that, we can still register you. It takes a little bit longer. There'll be an extra step, but we can still, so if you want ancillaries, then you would need to create a faculty account, and we can even help with that as well. And I should just point out, this program is very generously sponsored, as Carrie mentioned, but we're always, support is always helpful for things like additional books, support, keeping the maintenance going and the updating that's so important, especially in nursing and so on. Okay, bottom line, how do you get to the nursing books? You click nursing, and you will see a subjects page that we, mostly Lindsay and Andy on our team, created. And this will go through the different textbooks. Right now, the books that are available, we can show the Nutrition for Nursing. What you'll see here is a typical sort of catalog type page, just to give you some information on the book itself, who wrote it, the contributors. And as you can see, and I hope this isn't too small, this specific book, they're from all over, right? Actually, I don't think there's anybody from Texas. Oh, there's one in this book. Many of the books were written and lead authors are from Texas, but not all of them, right? So it is a national audience, and the reviewers and contributors are from all around. We don't list the reviewers here, but there's dozens of reviewers per book specifically for that course. So this is where you would access the PDF sample of this book. I'll show you what it will look like when the book is final. You'd also click on the instructor resources to get those as well. And let me just, if it's okay, show you just another book, just so you can see what it looks like when the book is fully available. So this is Anatomy and Physiology. A lot of your nursing students will have taken this course too, maybe not with our book, but many of has about 250,000 users. So a lot of folks probably have used it. You can, you'll see the online version as well. And this is the Anatomy and Physiology book. This is not part of the nursing series, but I hope you get a sense of how the book looks. You can go through, there's images, there's photos, captions. These photos do have alt text. They've been gauged for accessibility and so on. Navigable on the left-hand side, from whatever the subject matter is, orienting to the table of contents. And then you'll see things like chapter review. Every book is a little different. Anatomy and Physiology is different from nursing. We don't have NCLEX questions in the A&P book, although maybe we should, and so on. And basically that's how you would access it. This online version is the one we recommend because it is the most accessible in all meanings of the word. It is the one that's useful on a screen reader. It resizes for various screen types. I don't read textbooks on my phone, but I know a lot of students do, and this will resize, including the images, will resize and reorient to fit with their needs. And you can also upon login, students and faculty can add notes and highlights as well. So you can highlight something in various colors, you can take notes around it and so on. So we hope that that's helpful to get there. I'll just go back and I'll be very brief on the rest of this. As we said, you can download a PDF. That's essentially that version of the book, but in a PDF format. That is not as accessible, but it is something you could download. You can download it as many times as you want and to as many devices as you want. And then you can order a print copy if a student wants that, or as a faculty member, you can order through the bookstore. Just to show instructor resources, this is what it would look like, right? A number of different resources. Every book has some slight differences, but you'll see solution guides and PowerPoints, and in this case, testable images. We have the A&P images without the labels. You'll see the different technical partners that are available around the book. This book has a lot. This is one of our first 5 books, so we have a lot of partners around this. So there are many resources that you'll get as you go to the OpenStax site. But the most important thing, see it right at the top, are accessing the textbook and clicking those instructor resources. We know that's really important for faculty to get the instructor resources. That's how you find them. And if you forget all this, that's what our customer service team and the rest of our team is here to help you with. So that's that. I'm just going to check very quickly to see if there was anything else we need to show on this page. So very quickly, in terms of integrating, sorry, I know I'm not in presenter mode. I hope you'll just bear with me for a second. I'm gonna stick with this because I'm gonna have to back out to another site in a second, if that's okay. So how do you use one of these books? How do you integrate it into your course? The easiest thing to do, there's better ways to do this, but I went into this A&P book and I see this link at the top. That link is permanent. It resides. It's persistent. It's relatively simple. You've seen a lot of links on a lot of web pages with really long tails at the end of them and all these numbers and percentage signs and stuff. It's pretty basic. You can put that right in your syllabus. We actually recommend you actually put this book details page in your syllabus because that's where students will get everything, all the information and the ability to order a copy, student resources and so on. But you can go ahead and just add this link. In the case of the nursing books to your syllabus. I'll go back to the nursing series so it's not confusing. So you can add like this link, OpenStax, details, books, nutrition to the syllabus. You can add the book link to your LMS. We provide downloadable course cartridges as well as our new assignable offering where it integrates with the LMS, and we have course cartridges in Blackboard and Canvas and Moodle and D2L so that you can download them and they have the links built in. Or you can do that yourself. Just add it as a module, add it as on your front page, add it to your assignments and so on. Inform the bookstore if necessary. We do think that if you are going to have a sizable population of students using a textbook, you can tell the bookstore to order a subset of the course. The books have an ISBN, just like traditional textbooks do, so you can place that order through your bookstore. And I know we had a great degree of discussion in the previous session around inclusive access. There are many views on inclusive access. It's something that, we don't love the fact that the automatic billing is occurring. But we know that in some cases, at some schools, it actually, and for some students, actually is the best way to get their textbook. And we don't, rather than set a policy statement that we're not going to allow our materials in those programs, we actually put our materials into those programs so that they can be used. One of the reasons is that it's open and somebody else could put it in anyway. So we just want to make it smooth and easy. We fully agree with opt-out and very transparent communication around inclusive access, but our materials are available there as well. So you can place an order through the bookstore, do any reporting that's necessary there. Register for that instructor account. Again, you'll ask for some basic information, and it will verify that you're a faculty member at a school. Just so you know, we don't share your information with third parties. Frankly, we won't even share it with even your institution unless you let us know that we can. So we're very concerned about privacy. We will share the presence of an adoption at a school. I just want to be clear on that. So if you use one of our books and you tell us you're using it, we will share that the book is being used there. But as many of your professors know, that information isn't too hard to get. You just look in the bookstore and So we'll share that information. But to that point, please report your adoption. It really helps when you do. It helps us know where the books are being used, who we can go to for reviewing and updates when that's needed, because it is needed. It helps us, frankly, understand the needs, the requirements for updates and changes. It helps on the funding landscape for us to know how many people are using this. And I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for Carrie, but it really probably helps the THECB, who supported all this, to know, how many people are using and where they're being used and so on. It really builds a strong community, both around the nursing books and OER as a whole. So if you can, report your adoption to us. There's multiple places to do that. And again, we'll keep that information, relatively tight. We're not going to be selling your email addresses to anybody or anything like that. But it really does help. So that is that. I'm going to take a pause and a breath. Sorry, New Yorker, talk fast. And just a couple of questions. I'll answer these live about the accounts. Many librarians get accounts. Can my librarians get accounts? Yes, librarians could get accounts. Instructional designers could get accounts, and things like that. It's not restricted to nursing faculty. Tutors at a college can get accounts. Any staff members or others in that capacity can do it. With that, so that is something we can do. There is no institutional cost for the course cartridge. There is an institutional cost for you to have that learning environment at your school that your institution probably pays. So, we're not overtaking the cost of Canvas, but to download the course cartridge, you can have that at no charge. It is instructor only, and there may be restrictions depending on your access at your institution about what faculty or even administrators in a department are able to do. Some can go ahead and import a cartridge, some can't. So you might need some help with that from your LMS admin or some other relative person. Got another question about H5P content while we're here. Actually, yes, we have H5P links. We have other things. We link out to videos, H5P, other interactions from textbooks. In the nursing textbooks, we're also linking out to various sites in the nursing community, some of the administrative aspects, nursing organizations, and other resources. But there is H5P content. For the nursing books themselves, we do not have, at this second, things like NCLEX, unfolding case studies, or butterfly formatted assessments in H5P. Those exist. We'll be integrating them at a later time. One of the things we're working on there is the accessibility side to make sure that they could be read via screen readers, but we'll be doing that as well. And I should also say something about OER that I hope that George and Sarah got across is that often it goes the other direction. People might start with this content, as they very often have. I showed you that A&P book, and build in the other direction. They start and then they make videos, they make H5Ps out of this content. There's the opportunity for that as well. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and move over to the nursing, the OER, sorry, just move to the next thing, the nursing hub. So Carrie, did you want to talk on this?
Yeah, I can just share. And I know we've been posting links in the chat, but as Anthony mentioned, he showed you how to navigate from the OpenStax site. We have also created kind of a one-stop shop at this point following the summit on our statewide repository, OER in Texas, an OER nursing hub. And so on the hub, you will find links to the summit. Once the recordings are available from OpenStax YouTube channel, we will also post links to the summit recordings here. And we've also posted in one collective space links to the drafts of the textbooks. And so some of them will link you out to the book pages on OpenStax that Anthony just showed you, and others will link you to sort of the working draft in a PDF format. And there's a link there where you can check back to the nursing page for updates or contact OpenStax if you have questions. And if you scroll down a little bit further, Anthony, you'll see one of the benefits of using or coming to the hub is we have lots of different groups, and the groups allow you to collaborate and connect with others. We have one group that is just is the ONE group, which is the OER Nursing Essentials group, which is just a general group about the project. We have resources linked there that are not only OER nursing for this project, but existing OER, and there's discussion opportunities there. And then there are also groups for each of the individual textbooks. And so our OER in Texas repository is a microsite of OER Commons. And so the additional groups that you see linked there, the clinical nursing skills, the maternal newborn nursing, all of those colorful links there will take you to groups for each of these textbooks on the OER Commons site, which if you are teaching with one of these resources, or this is the course that you're teaching and you want to collaborate and connect with others that are using, join the groups, connect, ask questions, collaborate, connect to build resources. You've heard us say so many times the value of open in collaborating and connecting with others. So that is what enhances the quality of open educational resources, is the input and the contributions of the community. So that is the hub and a great place to start. So if you want to bookmark that and come back to it, as the resources are finalized, we will be updating the links, but this is a great place to start collaborating and exploring.
Thank you. I was responding to a question, and as Carrie mentioned, so these are linking to the preview versions of some of the books. We'll replace the preview with the actual book when it publishes, but we want to make sure you have that. And just one comment about preview content and anything like that. So right now for this summit, we've have the nutrition for nurses, the pharmacology, and the population health basically complete. You'll see that it's a non-final draft. We're just going through the final checks on that. The rest of the elements are in their final stages of production, so they will get out to that full version of the book, and and so on. If there's anything you would like to see in the meantime, that is something you can reach out to us. If you say, I really want to know what, how you cover this in the fundamentals book, it's kind of hard very much during the summit for us to do that, like on a, while we're on a session, but we can absolutely send that in a follow-up. So just please, put it in the chat, or actually maybe email us about it, so that we keep track. We can send you what you need. We know that, where you evaluate textbooks could take some time. You work with many faculty and so on. So we want to make sure we get you the materials. Okay, so I think that's that. And let me just see where we are in the session. Do we have any other? I think that's okay. So thank you. We can do some questions, but I really want to thank Carrie for just her amazing leadership and support throughout this process. We talk all the time about the best ways to get the material across and share. And we also should just give a shout out to the THECB who created that hub, which it looks like Carrie said. I gotta say, it's beautiful. It has, you might have noticed one thing is that some of those groups don't have anybody in them yet. They tend to start populating, once we have a summit like this, or once the books start publishing. Some of these book-oriented or course-oriented groups in different environments, they have hundreds of members, taking part in discussing, so it starts with one, but we'll get them into that larger scheme, hopefully with your help. And if you have any questions about this specifically, you can ask too. THECB and OER Text is a different site from ours, but glad to support everywhere we can. So we'll see. I know there's been a lot of questions going on. Before we answer any more, just mention, as you're seeing maybe in the chat, so we will start our next session, I think in about 10 minutes. So if anybody does want to take a sec to have a break in between, we'll stay on and answer questions. But if you are planning to go to the next session, need a little break, this could be a good time. Just keeping an eye on that. Okay, yes, and thanks Amanda for posting that. In terms of so in the queue, I'm answering in the Q&A. There may be questions in the chat. We'll scroll up in a second, but I know some of our colleagues have been answering those as well. So all of these are geared toward undergraduate. Are there plans for graduate OERs? I think as part of this program, we really were focused on undergraduate. We would love to answer all these questions along these lines, adding pediatric, adding pathophysiology and things like that, we would love to do it. We're focused on these in the beginning. If there's other opportunities or other partnerships that there could be, certainly do that. One thing about OER, as we mentioned before, there are other communities, both within nursing and out. One, for example, it's a great organization called Rebus. And what they do a lot of things. But one of the things they do is almost create it's like a matchmaking service for like OER projects. So basically somebody says, hey, I want to develop this project. Does anybody want to get in with me? Or I have some funding from my state or my institution to do this, but I need reviewers or something. So it's a great community to go into. I mean, you can use the textbooks off the shelf exactly as they are, or you can join one of these communities and be a part of creating some more. So all those opportunities are there. If we have the opportunity to provide more OER, we certainly will. And other types of resources. We know that it's not just about textbooks. There's micro-credentials and short courses and acceleration programs and co-requisite needs for students that need quick refreshers on science background. All those resources are developed and can be developed using the base of the OER. Just looking in the chat. Thanks. I don't know if there's anything, as Carrie and I were, sorry, yeah, we could put in the link to the Rebus community. I'll do that in a second. Just scrolling up the chat, if you can see our eyes sort of working here. If there's anything that anybody thinks we should answer live, please let me know.
Yeah, and I'll just remind everyone too that, following the summit, resources will be available in multiple places. We have the hub that we've talked about, which will collect, the recorded sessions that will be posted on OpenStax YouTube channel. And then the additional resources and groups are there as well. So multiple opportunities to access the resources.
Yeah, and if you didn't see it in the chat, thank you for Michelle for answering that. So if anybody does have it sounds like if anybody does have suggestions for future topics or coverage, Michelle mentioned that they'll open a hub in OERTX where people can post topics for consideration in the future. I don't know if that was actually about additional textbooks or discussions, workshops, that sort of thing. Actually, I bet it applies. I'm not trying to read minds, but I bet it kind of applies to both other types of needs, along the lines of what Sarah and George were talking about and was asked about in that session. But additional textbooks, very much. And like I said, you'll notice, even in this summit, one of the presentations on the social determinants of health workbook, that's actually not from this series. We're actually, it's a great resource. We would like to get the word out about it. It's developed by 2 faculty from Iowa State. And that's the sort of thing that we do in the OER space where, again, it's not competitive, it's complementary. We'd love to have them share our resources and we share their resources and so on. And we'll continue to do that. So, as we see opportunities for that complementing and growth, we'll certainly take it. Other than that, I don't know if we have much more on the presentation front. Seems like questions are winding down. Oh, some updating schedule. Great question. Sorry about that if we didn't answer that, but I will address that quickly now. So the updating, so OpenStax, we do a few different types of updates. Essentially, we undertake all consistent, not constant. It's not a wiki book. It's not like we're continually updating every day, but several times a year, we gather all the errata and suggestions that we receive, and every book page has a place to put that in. And we take those comments from anybody, not just faculty, from students as well. The difference is we don't just implement them. Every single suggestion we get, every errata, hey, this standard changed, or this is wrong, or we don't say it this way anymore. That gets vetted by a qualified faculty member within that course, and it gets vetted for accuracy and validity and course alignment. If somebody's saying add 4 chapters, That's not going to happen in a errata suggestion change. But if it's within the scope of the course in the book and things like that, we'll make the change. In terms of more formalized updates, it's hard to say the exact schedule. Well, where we're really going end to end through a book and looking almost like more like a revision of a traditional textbook. But I would assume it would be somewhere in the 2 to 3 year range. It really depending on the accumulation of needed change. If stuff is changing dramatically all the time in a course and needs to be changed all the time, pharmacology is a great candidate for that. We know that every course changes and every standard changes and every way you teach changes based on your interactions and new ways of practice and evidence and so on. But some books might be faster than others. But we do this consistent editing to handle the incremental stuff, and then every couple of years, every 3 years, we'll do a more formalized revision. But we only do them when they're needed. We're not like traditional textbook publishers where, every 3 years we do a new edition, whether we need it or not. We'll only do it when it's needed, but we rely on faculty to tell us when it's needed. Those faculty include our authors, who, of course, all have a very deep vision about what's needed for their course and so on. Okay, so we answered the question about the social determinants of health. Yes, it's not on our library, but you can link to it through various means and OER Commons, and we'll put it on the hubs and things like that. And you'll hear from Carla Kirkove and Dawn Bowker from Iowa State. I think their presentation is tomorrow on that book, on how it can be used across different courses. Okay, I think we're good.
I think so. I just want to say it was really exciting to finally be here. As Anthony said, he and I have, the last couple of years, every Wednesday come together to work on this. And I just want to say thanks to OpenStax for all their work and to the many contributors and collaborators that have made this happen. It's really great to be here today with all of you. And I look forward to spending the next few days with you. So thanks, everyone.
Totally agree. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We will we'll speak to you all soon on the next session, which is starting in just a few minutes. Thanks. Bye.